All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. I did an upload here on this channel recently about the disappearance of Travis Walton, one of the most famous UFO stories of all time, really. And one of the big things that I mentioned in that one was that Travis Walton failed a lie detector test on national television. I believe it was on the show The Moment of Truth back when that thing was going on. It was it was kind of an offbeat show that wasn't that good anyway, but okay, Travis failed a lie detector test. And I said in that upload that I am one of the largest supporters of polygraph testing out there. And I thought I would just do a segment on lie detectors / polygraph testing, just to kind of, just to throw some ideas out there, to be honest. In the Travis Walton upload, I also mentioned that I listened to several presentations of a man named Dan Ribicoff, that's Ribicoff, and he does the lie detectors for the Steve Wilkos show, and sometimes he would come out and he would give presentations, and he give presentations and interviews about how the polygraph works. Now, when I was back in college, somebody advised me once, a police officer actually, a retired police officer actually advised me, saying that if you are ever asked to take a lie detector test, you say no, because it's just for starters, I believe that at least in the state I was living in, they couldn't force you. Okay, so that's just sort of in your own legal defense. If you're not going to be forced to do it, then don't do it for sort of your own legal benefit. And I wasn't any legal trouble. He's just sort of giving this as his own personal advice, because the way he explained that a lie detector worked was, this is years and years ago. I'm a very, very old person, despite the charming voice, sorry. And it's he said the lie detector works on three things: heart rate, blood pressure, and galvanic skin tension. And I've heard Dan Ribicoff allude to the sort of three physiological things that he searches for. But what's happened really is some new things have come out in terms of polygraph testing that make it a little more accurate. And that is why I am kind of a bigger believer now, because heart rate, blood pressure, and galvanic skin tension, so many things could affect those, right? You know that, and I know that. But now we have the new computerized polygraphs, which sort of, they measure physiological tracings in the human body, and they can sort of tell whether you're using the parts of the brain that deal with imagination and the parts of the brain that deal with memory. So it basically comes down to this. When you use your imagination, your brain has to work much harder. That forces your body to work much harder. So, the heart rate, blood pressure, and galvanic skin tension are still involved, but they sort of are looking at it in a very specific way. It has nothing to do with nervousness, and it has nothing to do with sort of feeling uncomfortable. There are some things that can, affect it. I believe, even if you, let's just go to alcohol, drugs, especially Xanax, can greatly affect the polygraph scores, which makes sense. You wouldn't be able to get a proper readings of, the not only heart rate, blood pressure, galvanic skin tension, the whole body would be depressed because of Xanax. So that's something that I could follow very easily. But, it's they try to say now that, at first they said the computerized polygraph test was 98% accurate, and the whole internet community was just what? That's not true. Now, the guys like Dan and Ralph from The Maury Show, say that polygraph tests are 99.4% accurate. It's I really do think they've made some very large advancements in this stuff, but even that almost sounds a little bit beyond belief. But they seem pretty confident that they can use their they can use the sort of equipment and the algorithm scoring system to look at parts of the brain, and I mean, they're not actually wearing you don't wear a neurocranial transmitter. They're not actually looking at your brain waves, but they're looking about how your brain is functioning and like how the reactions in your brain are affecting the human body. These create the physiological tracings. Now, lie detectors are admissible in 21 states in court, right? That's sort of, one of Dan's claims to, kind of like claim to fame on the internet when he announced, that lie detectors were first, admissible in 20 states in court as evidence, and now it's up to 21 states. One of the largest reasons why more states are not admitting these things in court is somebody wrote this on a forum, actually, when they were saying lie detectors are accurate. The reason why they're not more admissible in court is they have data that has to be interpreted by an examiner. It's like it's a bunch of charts and squiggles and lines, and it's like someone has to interpret this. And because humans are, subject to imperfection, there is a chance that somebody could be misreading your chart. I mean, that's what somebody wrote out online, and I kind of almost think that actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, that would be a reason why, they would not want to have this administered as, presented in court as part of the litigation. But some things about polygraphs, though, they are used by the police all the time. They are used by the military. If, like, officers want to get certain promotions, they can have to take a polygraph. They are used by the CIA. And one of the big things I thought about that is the CIA, are they really going to be playing around? I mean, if these things are not accurate, I mean, what would be the point for them to use? And supposedly they're the state-of-the-art intelligence agency in the entire world. When, by accurate, we're saying, it's like the machine is probably 99.4% accurate, and we have to expect that there are going to be certain imperfections in somebody's ability to read the charts and things of that nature. There was an episode of the show Adam Ruins Everything that was about lie detectors, because I mentioned that, I'm kind of a supporter of the polygraphs, and I have a lot more faith in polygraphs than other people. And someone's like, okay, you have to watch this episode of Adam Ruins Everything with Adam Conover. And I was like, all right, let's have a look. And, I watched it, and basically what he said on that show is that to pass a lie detector test, you just need to be calm. You just need to have, like, a low heart rate. But, to me, that felt like more about how things were done in the 1980s. I mean, like, he didn't once mention anything about the algorithm scoring system. They didn't mention anything about, using the lie detector to see the parts of the brain that are the parts of the brain that deal with imagination versus memory. It seemed like a very, very kind of out-of-date episode, and they really left out a lot of critical information. But, that's just a pop culture program. It's hardly, it's definitely not a scientific one. But yeah, like, I was not impressed by anything on there. It's like they really didn't even get into any of these sort of hardcore details about how a polygraph works. And once again, they really stress, the guys who do this stuff, that polygraphs do not account for nervousness. Nervousness and ill feelings are not going to affect the polygraph, because they're looking at how the brain affects your body, and like about how specifically how the parts of the brain related to imagination are affecting the body versus how the parts of the brain related to memory are affecting your body. And there apparently is a very different physiological reaction. Now, again, like, the guys who do these things, they give presentations, and you can see certain, like, they'll put up the charts about this is how it works, and when you see someone telling a lie, there is a massive spike. It's basically a chart just going just a little up and down, and then there is just a massive increase, sort of like how a stock price can be surging, It's just going up, 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 and then it crashes down hard. It doesn't seem like it is beyond belief to me that lie detectors are much more accurate than what people are giving them credit for. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is, people like to be skeptical, and people like to discredit many things, and it's good to be a skeptic, and it's good to challenge some things, but I really feel, though, people aren't really giving the polygraph sort of a fair shake, and people aren't really giving, lie detectors, they aren't really taking them as seriously as they could. And there's also some ways that they can go about this. Everyone who takes a polygraph is tested at least twice, and you can also do it sort of some other ways. Like if you test somebody 3 times at night and then 3 times the next day, and all 6 charts are reading exactly the same, then it's not at the fault of the test. And even if you had 98% accuracy and all 6 charts are reading exactly the same, you would know that that test is accurate. Within the within the shadow of a doubt, maybe. Well, that's really just sort of my whole take on polygraphs. And if anyone does want to learn more about this, there is a channel on YouTube called In-Depth Polygraphs. That's in-depth, like INDEPTH. Ah, crap, I can't spell. I just use the damn drop-down menu on YouTube and such when I'm typing things in. But to recap some things, lie detectors are admissible in 21 U.S. states, as during the trials of litigation. They're used by the military, they're used by the CIA. They do not read for nervousness, and they observe the body and see the physiological reactions of using the imagination versus the physiological reactions of using the memory. And there are some other things that they do about this things that they go about this first. There's something called the Morgan theme interview technique, when it's like they ask certain questions, and then they'll show people pictures, and they ask them to tell them sort of stories about what they see in the pictures, because they're trying to make sure that people have sort of a normal functioning brain. And it's like there are a lot of steps that go through this whole procedure. I don't know, but what do you guys think? Do you think that lie detectors are 99.4% accurate? What do you think about that? Do you think polygraphs have any sort of credibility at all? And based on everything that I've even said here, do you still agree that polygraphs are only based on nervousness and heart rate? What do you think? If anybody wants to just say something on this, I just thought about doing something that's kind of always been on my mind. I always thought about making a little recording about this subject, and I'm probably going to get torn apart for this one because I know it's an unpopular opinion. I know that it's unpopular to just sort of say, hey, yeah, polygraphs are actually kind of a good thing, because it's much more fashionable for people just to say, oh, that's a load of crap, they're just making it up. It's like, it's against the system and all that. But if anybody has any other things they would like to share in the comments section below, like links, suggested articles, suggested reading, or suggested YouTube videos on the subject, let's just talk a little more. All right, until next time, that's all from me.